Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I saw the latest Superman film, and now I want to tell you about it. This iteration of Superman comes from the mind of writer and director James Gunn. It's a superhero fantasy adventure with little bits of comedy and a lot of action. It stars David Corenswet as Superman, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. The story this time around is that Superman is looking after his cousin's dog Krypto when Lex Luthor enacts a diabolical plot to kill him. Superman, along with a team of heroes, Lois Lane and the reporters from the Daily Planet, and a couple of new allies, take on Luthor in a death match with the fate of the world as the prize. As a film, it's an action-packed affair with several different storylines and a good variety of content. There's comedy, tragedy, romance, a bit of horror, and some good old-fashioned values. The story is a fast-paced adventure that starts by introducing us to Superman in the midst of his superhero career. He's already the Man of Steel. He already has all his abilities, and we only have to go over his origin story for half of the movie instead of all of it. Then Lex beats him to a pulp, steals his dog, and out comes Superman's claws. Superman goes on a mission to rescue poor Krypto from Lex and is joined by Lois Lane, his girlfriend. The two of them find new allies, take on ridiculous threats, and even travel to new dimensions in the pursuit of their furry canine friend. For a cast, Superman has a team of wacky superheroes to help Superman on his journey, a bunch of normal reporters trying their best to get the big scoop, and a bunch of absurdly evil corporate villains trying to take over the world. Everyone is playing a stereotype to some extent, and no one goes beyond that. Superman, Lex, and Lois get to build somewhat complex stereotypes, but are still very much comic book characters represented in live action. Visually, the film follows Superman around the globe and to other dimensions as he looks for his dog. The journey is created through a mixture of CGI, green screen, and a few real sets and locations. For big visual spectacles, there's all kinds of fights between the different superheroes and villains, a few big visual gags, and some nice scenic shots of the world. The big visual moments come often, and a good chunk of the movie is completely CGI, like a cartoon. Sound-wise, the film uses scored orchestrals to give itself an epic sound and to support the emotional journey. The tracks follow the scenery beat for beat and bring out all the sadness, joy, and awe they can inspire. Which brings me to my review. The story is pure fantasy that does whatever it wants in any given moment with no regard for story structure or weight. They constantly ignore plot points and details that might get in their way and change characters' personalities on a whim to fit the needs of the story. It has a lot of excitement, nice character moments, and even a solid premise at the heart of it, but it fails to execute many of its plot points properly. The characters end up being half-baked, most of the plot points are barely explored before they jump on to the next one, and the emotions end up falling flat because the story lacks the weight it needs. They did manage to keep things exciting by beating you over the head with action, comedy, and visual spectacles every chance they got, but failed to create a memorable story. Cast-wise, there is a lot of personality, but not much depth. The general cast are always playing one-note characters, but they're done well and there's no awkward line deliveries. The film also has a good variety of personalities to keep things fresh. The main cast get a little bit more wiggle room to flesh out their characters and do a good job in their roles, but don't get enough screen time to actually make it memorable. David Corenswet as Superman is a great example. When he's playing Superman, he actually does it pretty well. He's heroic looking, he pulls off the emotions, and he has a good sense of comedic timing. When it comes to making heroic speeches, he even manages to turn a few cheesy lines into nice moments. He's good as Clark Kent, too. Unassuming, kind of shy, and easily blends into a scene. The problem comes from all of his big story beats being cut down to snippets. Like at one point he's grieving a character's death, and they give him all of 5 seconds to pull it off and make it look convincing. Oh, and he's also in a dark room with bad lighting, and they cut away to 5 other characters in the room constantly. Corenswet does what he can, but the film sets him up to fail. Brosnahan and Hoult have the same problem. They pull off great iterations of Lois Lane and Lex Luthor respectively, but don't actually get a good story to work with, or enough time to make it really stick. They're just putting on cool comic book personas that don't go anywhere or do anything special. Visually, the film is okay once you get used to the fact that you're watching a half-cartoon, half-film hybrid. The journey takes place in a huge variety of settings and sees all kinds of crazy visual landscapes. Some of them are really beautiful, some of them are a little creepy, and some of them are straight up mind-bending. The action sequences are mostly CGI slugfests where Superman and Ultraman beat each other up with comic book punches. There's lots of property damage, cool explosions, and they have a ton of visual tricks to show off. It's fun, exciting, and comes with a ton of visual fanfare. The fights are big spectacles, and the visual gags tend to hit perfectly. Sound-wise, the film is good in the moment, but it isn't all that gripping or memorable. It uses the scored orchestrals precisely, bringing out exactly the right emotion for each part of the story. The problem is that the songs aren't complex enough or prominent enough to stand out. Sometimes you can barely hear them at all. Personally, I thought the film was a little boring after 30 minutes or so. It doesn't develop anything well, and the action was just too simple for me. I don't mind the occasional slugfest, but 2 hours of them is just way too much. If they had put some back and forth into the fighting, or focused more on the emotional aspects, maybe I would have cared more about the story, but they didn't. I thought the actors were really good in their roles, but totally underused by the film. The visual journey is fine, if you like the content, but the more superhero films I watch, the more I ask myself why these stories aren't told through animation instead. They're basically cartoons anyway with how much CGI is going on, but at least if they were completely animated, it wouldn't look so jarring when they start fighting. Anyway, I'd give this film a 6 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye!